Hello, my friends, and welcome to the third edition of Ray of Sunshine. This is a time of the week where I celebrate somebody that I know personally and introduce them to you in case you don't know them, so you can join me in recognizing and acknowledging awesome people doing awesome things in the world. Now, a lot of the time when we think about people that are really transforming the world or transforming people's lives and stuff, typically that acknowledgement and these accolades and whatnot go to these big name guru celebrity kind of people. And not to take anything away from them, more power to them in their stuff. But we as individuals having whatever influence we're having, whether that's great, massive, huge, or small, medium, whatever, it still matters because my life is valuable and your life is valuable, and the impact that I'm making on the world matters, and the impact that you're making on the world matters. And so with this Ray of Sunshine special that I do about once a week here on this channel is really about showcasing and highlighting and acknowledging people that are just simply amazing, beautiful human beings, because we all deserve to be acknowledged for the awesomeness that we are. And it is also my intention, as you are becoming more inspired by my friend that I'm going to introduce you to today, and you recognize the power that comes when we love and honor and acknowledge and respect and lift each other up, I encourage you to do this in your life and in your relationships, because there are tons of people that you know who wake up every day wondering, is what I'm doing really making a difference? Is all the things that I'm trying to do, the ways that I'm trying to just live out love out loud or just be the best version of me, is it actually helping other people? When we receive that acknowledgement from others, though we might not be chasing after it, because this isn't about building some sort of codependency, but when we receive acknowledgement from other people, what does it do? It lifts and elevates our spirit. We really feel like what it is that we're doing matters. And it is my intention that my buddy Topher today feel like he really knows more solidly that what he's doing matters. So I want to introduce to you today my friend Topher Fangio. Now, I've known Topher for several years. He's a very dear, very close friend of mine. He's also a member of the growth farming community, which I talk about just about every single video here on this channel. And one of the things that I love most about Topher, and there are quite a few, he is a very, very knowledgeable guy when it comes to anything involving tech and web and websites and development for all of these computer kind of things. It's not really my forte, but he knows it really well. That's just a side thing that makes him awesome. What makes Topher super awesome is he is somebody that embodies what it means to be a truly empowering leader. All of our conversations, and that's not a hyperbole, all of our conversations are full of so much beautiful encouragement and empowerment. He's given me feedback on things that I've put in front of him to just kind of see what I can improve upon and how I can grow and how I can make things better. At no point in time has Topher ever been critical. Now, I hear some leaders say, well, you got to really tell people the way that it is, and you can't just sugarcoat stuff. If you don't show them some criticism in some way, they're never going to improve and they're never going to grow. Well, I call BS on that, because I have felt more encouraged and more empowered and more willing to make incremental changes and improve myself from the feedback that Topher gives me, which has never, ever, 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 no hyperbole, been critical. It's always been a way for me to look at what I'm doing well and what I'm not doing well from a different perspective. And as you know from watching this channel, I like to look at things from a different perspective. So let me introduce to you, without further ado, my beautiful, amazing, empowering, uplifting, incredible friend, Topher Fangio. Topher, welcome, and thank you for being a gigantic ray of sunshine.
Thank you so much, Dee. It's great to be here. I appreciate you doing this and giving us the opportunity to uh, in- hopefully impact more people and just get the word about the love that we can share out.
Well, thanks, man. Well, and I think I share this with you as often as I can, because I want to acknowledge and just continue to grow in and recognize, like, I consider myself to be a really empowering person. words of affirmation and encouragement are my number one love language, and I do it without thinking about it. And I feel like that might be one of your number one love languages. But what I find is that it doesn't matter what your love language is, whether it's gifts, acts of service, physical touch, words of affirmation, or there's always a fifth one that I can't remember. Whatever the fifth one is that has slipped my mind. Everybody responds to words of encouragement in a positive way. Now, some people, especially if they have a low self-concept, will maybe deny or push away somebody giving them an affirming or encouraging word, but it still has this capacity to break through that wall that's there. And I'm curious, from your experience and your perspective, like as you communicate with people and you work with all kinds of different folks and all kinds of different varieties, and you manage people and you lead people and you work with clients and you do all kinds of stuff, as you are giving people feedback and you're doing so in the unique way that you do it, what is the response like to meet somebody with encouragement and empowerment versus some of the other communication types of trying to give somebody feedback?
That's a great question. So I certainly don't feel like I've always been good at this. This has been something I've practiced and learned. I became a manager at the current company I'm with and went through multiple courses where we talked about how to give feedback and how to be encouraging, but also, tell people, here's what you need to be doing. And I think there's maybe two things that we can talk about here. So the first is that whenever you're giving feedback, you want it you want to tie it into the value that you can provide, or the value that their change will provide, right? So somebody is doing something that is, maybe driving away business, or if their performance is, not what you want it to be, or if it's just like, there's something in their marketing, and you're like, hey, that message doesn't sit quite right. When you go to them with this feedback, right, you want to be able to explain to them and encourage them by saying, here's what I see happening, and here's how I see this is affecting you or the company or whatever, and here's how I think it can be different. And you want to like paint a picture for them and give them that vision of how it can be better. And then that really helps them understand that whatever they need to work on or whatever they need to do, it's not just about like, oh, we want you to do this thing. It's here's the reason that we want you to do it, right?
Mhm.
And that helps empower people, because whenever you can share that vision, whenever you can get their mind and their imagination going, that really helps them to, I mean, just think of all the possibilities, right? And I think very often when we talk about giving critical or very harsh feedback, a lot of the times what we're really doing is we are just decreasing their imagination or their vision. And that's why a lot of people really, we call it like micromanagement, when you're telling people, do these things, and you're not doing this right. Let's fix that one little thing. People need that freedom, because we are such creative individuals and we want to use our brain power. We want to use this thing, in between our ears. And so I think that's a big piece of it, is trying to get people in the spirit of the vision, right? It's where they can be and how things could be better. So that's one piece. I think the second piece, and this is something that I've, had to learn when I first started out, especially when I first had children. It was always telling them, no, 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 don't do this. Stop whatever you're doing. It was very discouraging and very disheartening. And obviously, if they're running into the street and you're like telling them stop, don't do that, there's certain times where that's necessary, when their life is in danger or something. But most other times, you can find a way to get your point across without sounding like a jerk, right? And for me, I'll say it took some work, right? I don't believe I started out that way. I honestly don't know where I learned it. I would say my wife was a really good example. We've been married 13 years, and she has shown me a lot in those 13 years about patience and understanding. Um, One of the most effective things for my children, and this kind of plays into the world at large with my people under me at my company or whatever. When my kids have done something wrong and I need to instruct them, one of the things I saw her do, and that I've really started to take on, is I will literally get down on their level. So I'm obviously much larger than them, and they feel like I have this power over them because I'm taller and I'm bigger and I'm their dad and whatever. But when I like get on my knees and I come down to them and I, look them in the face and we're eye level together, now I'm putting myself in this kind of place of humility so that they feel less threatened, but also so that they feel more loved, right? And that really helps the message come across a lot better. First off, it does something for me where I am, making myself less. I am bringing myself down, and that if I'm in a really bad angry state, that immediately brings down my anger because I'm realizing, okay, this is not what they need right now. This is not where I need to be. Let me kind of bring myself down, and so it changes my attitude towards the whole process. So kind of expanding upon that with feedback for colleagues or your employees or people under you, your direct reports, whoever it is. I think kind of bringing yourself down to their level in whatever manner that looks like. That kind of may be a metaphor, obviously. um, well, I mean, it may not, right? Like if you're physically with somebody, maybe it means you both sit down together rather than you standing over them and lording over them. That's a huge thing that we learned early on. If you have somebody come into your office or whatever, you don't want to be standing there just like talking down to them. You want to be at eye level and have a conversation about it. And it's not so much about saying that you are necessarily equals, I guess, because there's usually some kind of hierarchy in corporations. But on some level, you are equals, right? You're both human beings. And I think that's really the big piece is, hey, we're both humans. We both make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Let's talk about this like as one human to another human rather than like a boss to an employee or something. So I think those two things are what I would say have been the most impactful for me when we talk about giving quality feedback.
That was so brilliant and beautiful, man. And I appreciate how you equated it across a variety of different avenues, not just in business, but also in family and in relationships. Because it's the same thing that's true across the board. It doesn't matter what avenue it's in. Like and in a way, it's so you're not like taking off one hat and putting on a different hat and being a completely different person depending on where you're
Right.
at. It's like one consistent self concept of this is who I am. And also, one of the things you talked about in a way has to do with emotional regulation, like what you described, like when you're angry, getting on your knees and looking your kids in the eye, like brings you back kind of down, not to down to their level, but not like they're less than you. But that, so like, it's like now, okay, wait, I'm seeing things from their perspective. Oh, okay. Yeah, now it makes sense. And
Right.
that's just so powerful. I think so much of your ethos, Topher, is this you're a gentle giant. And I think that I'm a very gentle person as well. I think for a long time I rejected the gentleness that was natural to me because it wasn't the rough and tough, bravado,
Yeah.
macho stuff that is so pervasive in our culture. And like, you're not a real man unless you're out kicking somebody's ass or something like that. And gentleness is treated almost as weakness in the eyes of some people, but it it takes an immense amount of strength and inner fortitude and solidarity to be gentle when there are things that are going on outside of you or even inside of you that do not feel good. And it can take an immense amount of strength to be kind when you're working against your old patterns of lashing out or being vindictive or trying to let somebody, get a piece of your mind or whatever it is. And I see you operating in this solidarity of both gentleness and kindness and living love out loud. And it's such a beautiful thing to get to witness, man.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I am reminded, I don't remember who it was, but I saw something recently where some CEO of many corporations, I want to say it was the guy who owns Virgin, said that the number one thing that he looks for in a leader is not their performance, it's not, how well they communicate, and it's not, just if they made one or two really great choices or like decisions, right? It was the ability to regulate your emotions.
Richard
And Richard Branson, thank you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and again, I don't know if it was him who said this. I think it was, but it was just so powerful to hear from somebody that high up to say performance is not necessarily the most important piece, right? Learning how to be a good human being and control yourself when there's drama or just, frustrating times, right? The company I'm working for has had a lot of frustrating times recently, and there are people who handle that better than others, right? And you can tell that the people that are leaders and who have worked their way up into those positions have that capacity to be able to kind of take a step back from the situation and not, even if they're frustrated with it, even if they don't like it, they don't let it get to them and affect how they operate and how they treat other people. And
Branson.
that is just massive. And that was really eye opening to me to hear that. I think I heard that, oh, I don't know, 6 or 8 months ago, something like that. Ever since then, I've been really trying to bring that more and more into my life.
EQ. I was watching
Yeah,
and I'm still learning about this because I think it's a big part of all of. I think it's a part of all of our lives, regardless. And I think it all the different boxes that we have in our lives. We've got our home life, we've got our closest relationships, we've got our family. Sometimes those are all the same, sometimes they're different. We've got our close, intimate circle of friends. We've got our, next tier level of friends, and we've got the outer outskirts level of friends. We've got our jobs, we've got our colleagues, we've got people that we've done business with years and years and years ago, and people that we're doing business with or whatever right now. We've got people that we are, uh, you know, putting things in front of that we don't know personally, but that they're interacting with something that we're doing on some sort of basis. In all of these capacities, our EQ has to, at least from a balance perspective, have as much of a value and priority as much as our IQ does. But
mhm,
recently, I think that there's been a giant shift that's happened where the EQ, the emotional intelligence side of things, has been given a lot more recognition and
yeah,
acknowledgement. And there's been more things coming forth to help people increase their emotional intelligence and elevate that than there ever was in the past. But so much of our schooling system and our culture and different business things is all about, learning something new up here instead of recognizing that there's a balance. There's an emotional balance. We talk on this channel, we talk in the growth farming community about your heart garden matters as much as your mind garden does. And if we ignore one or value one over the other, and I can honestly admit that I've spent a lot of time trying to work on just this without bringing my heart into the equation. And I keep being led back to, no, dude, there's a highway here that needs to be cleared away.
yeah,
And there's a connection between these two that matter. It's not one or the other. It's kind of more of an all or none sort of thing. So I appreciate you bringing that up, man. Um, you and I could have a conversation about this stuff for a long time, and I appreciate you being here. In the interest of our friends that are watching in their time, I just want to say, guys, I know you've learned something from Topher, and so I appreciate him being here and sharing and engaging with us in this capacity. And Topher, thank you for being here and being a part of this. I really appreciate it.
my pleasure, man. This has been awesome.
All right, so guys, couple things. One, recognize that what you do matters. Also recognize that gentleness and respect for everybody in your life matters. And recognize that even when those intense moments happen and you're getting all frustrated and stuff, sometimes pressing pause and taking a deep breath or sitting down and having an eye-to-eye conversation with somebody will help you to be able to shift back into a place where you can recognize that, oh, this doesn't have to be personal against me. We are both humans here. We're both trying to find a way to move forward. So let's see what we can do to move forward together. Go back and rewatch this video. Topher dropped so many gold nuggets. So many gold nuggets. It's the equivalent of Richard Branson's, I don't know, bank account. And I know Richard Branson's like one of the richest dudes in the world. So like so much gold was dropped here today from Topher, just absolutely fantastic. And then one other thing for you guys, Topher and I are both members of the growth farming community, which we didn't talk about, but that's totally fine. But if you want to be around really awesome, dynamic, powerful, encouraging, and empowering leaders and people who speak life into you on a regular basis, consider becoming a member. You can do that by going to growthfarming.com. I'll put a link in the description box below. Okay, you're awesome. I appreciate you. I believe in you, and I love you. And I'll see you again soon.